He pretended to sleep to test her, but what her daughter did next broke his heart open. Morning light spilled across the glossy marble floors of the Wellington estate, one of those places where silence was luxury and space was power. Henry Wellington, a billionaire tech mogul in his late 50s, sat in his armchair overlooking the Pacific. His world was one of numbers and control, and yet lately, control had begun to feel like emptiness. His wife had passed 3 years ago. Since then, he'd filled the house with employees, assistants, cleaners, but not warmth. Today, however, someone had disturbed the stillness. From the hallway came soft laughter, not from the executives or polished guests, but from the maid's kid, a small black girl named Lila, maybe 8 years old, her voice echoing faintly as she played near the kitchen. Henry frowned. Children weren't supposed to be here during work hours. He turned toward Ruth, the maid, a woman in her 30s wearing a faded uniform and tired eyes that still carried quiet pride. Henry, sternly, "Is that your daughter again?" Ruth, nervously, "Yes, sir." "I'm sorry, Mr. Wellington. The daycare was closed today. I didn't have a choice." Henry sighed, not cruelly but mechanically. "Henry, just keep her quiet." Ruth nodded quickly, guiding Lila away. But as the elevator doors closed, Henry caught a glimpse. The girl was drawing something on a napkin. It wasn't doodles. It was a face. His face. And somehow it looked kinder than the real thing. Later that day, Henry pretended to read financial reports while watching Ruth polish the piano. Lila sat cross-legged on the floor nearby, whispering to her stuffed rabbit. Lila softly, "Mommy, when people are sad, do they just forget how to smile?" Ruth, "Sometimes, baby. Sometimes they just need someone to remind them." The billionaire shifted in his chair. No one spoke to him like that, not even the people he paid millions. By evening, a few board members arrived for dinner. The long glass table gleamed under chandelier light. Ruth moved quietly in the background, serving wine and soup, while Lila waited in the staff room coloring. One of the guests, Charles, a smug investor, made a crude comment. Charles, mocking, "I see your help brings their little ones too now. Cute. Reminds me of those charity ads." A ripple of laughter followed. Henry didn't join in. For a moment, shame burned in him. Not for Charles' words, but because he'd once thought the same way. Ruth's hands trembled slightly as she set down a dish. Lila peeked through the door, eyes wide, her small world watching how grown men could be cruel with smiles. That night, the mansion quieted again. Henry walked through the halls, guilt gnawing at him. He found himself outside the maid's quarters. A small, plain room tucked near the laundry wing. He could hear soft humming, Ruth singing her daughter to sleep. Something in him twisted. He thought of his own daughter, gone too young, years ago. The next morning, Henry decided on something odd. A test. He would pretend to fall asleep in the lounge while Ruth and Lila were cleaning. He wanted to see how they behaved when no one was watching. Part of him justified it as curiosity, but deeper down, he wanted to know if kindness existed when no one owed it. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. Henry lay back on the couch, eyes half closed, pretending to drift off. Ruth entered quietly, humming as she dusted the furniture. Lila followed, holding a small notepad. Ruth, whispering, "Careful now. Don't wake him." Lila, "He looks sad, Mommy." Ruth, "He's tired, baby. Just tired." The little girl tiptoed closer, staring at Henry's face. Her gaze wasn't judgment. It was empathy. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crayon drawing. A bright yellow sun and two people smiling under it. One was Ruth. The other one was Henry. She gently placed it beside his hand. Lila, whisper, "So he doesn't forget to smile." Henry froze. He wanted to keep pretending to sleep, but his heart wasn't pretending anymore. Something inside Henry cracked open. The kind of ache that comes when someone holds up a mirror to your soul. He blinked, tears welling before he could stop them. Ruth turned, startled. Ruth, "Mr. Wellington, I'm sorry. She didn't mean—" Henry, hoarse. "It's okay." He sat up slowly, holding the drawing like it was something fragile. Henry, to Lila, "You drew this?" Lila, nervously, "Yes, sir." "You look lonely." The words hit him harder than any boardroom betrayal. They sat together at the kitchen counter. Billionaire, maid, and child. Henry had never felt smaller or more human. Henry, "Your mom tells me you like to draw?" Lila, "Yes, I draw happy things." Even when people aren't happy yet, Ruth bit her lip, embarrassed but proud. Ruth, She's got a big heart, sir. Too big sometimes, Henry, softly. That's the best kind. Days passed. Henry began to invite Ruth and Lila to lunch breaks in the garden. He'd pretend it was casual, but everyone noticed the difference. Even the staff who used to whisper. He sponsored Lila's art classes, quietly, without making it a show. He didn't do it to save anyone. He did it because she'd already saved something in him. When Charles, the arrogant investor, joked again about staff kids, Henry interrupted sharply. Henry, coldly, watch your words. Some people have more class than money can buy. The room went silent. Weeks later, an art gallery downtown opened a children's exhibition. Henry arrived discreetly, wearing a simple jacket instead of a suit. On the wall hung Lila's painting, The Sleeping Man in the Sun. It showed a man resting on a couch, while a small girl left a son beside him. The same drawing from that morning. Underneath, in Lila's handwriting, were the words, "Even big people forget how to smile sometimes." So I remind them. Henry stood there, unable to speak. His eyes stung again. Not from shame this time, but from gratitude. Months later, Ruth still worked for Henry, but now she didn't feel like the help. Henry had begun funding art programs for underprivileged kids. Lila's name quietly listed as the first honorary artist. One evening, as the sun set over the Pacific, Ruth and Lila stood on the terrace with him. Henry, "You know, Lila, that picture changed me." Lila, smiling, "That's what art's for." He laughed softly. For the first time in years, the sound didn't echo. It belonged. Never judge someone's worth by their position or color. True class comes from the heart.